Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the highest selling game on Nintendo Switch by far for a very good reason. This game should not exist. 96 tracks spread across 24 different cups is an absolutely ridiculous amount of content. And ladies and gentlemen, today we are about to rank every single course in this game. But not just that, at the end of this video, I've got all sorts of interesting stats to go over. I averaged out each course's ranking, so we also have a ranking of all 24 cups. We can rank each wave of the Booster Course Pass, the Booster Course Pass versus the base game, or all the Nitros versus the Retros. It's actually really interesting stuff, so make sure to stay tuned till the end when we get into all that. But now, let's start off with all 96 tracks. Technically, I've ranked all these before, because I did a Booster Course Pass ranking and a base game ranking. However, not only is this video me combining both of those together, but also my opinions have changed pretty drastically. The main thing I have to say is that obviously every single track will have a bunch of different factors that I take into account. The graphics, the music, the creativity, the shortcuts, but at the end of the day, the most important thing for a Mario Kart track is how fun it is to play over and over again. I have to give a shout out to my college friends, Andrew, Mike, Thomas, Benoit, and Cooper, because over our 4 years of college, we've played a ton of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it's given me a new perspective on these rankings. This list is almost entirely based on how fun I found every single track in this game while playing with these guys. Because of that, I'm not really taking into account like a track's legacy or anything, just how fun it is to race. So let's start it all off with number 96, Toad's Turnpike. It is a little crazy to me that I'm placing this track as the worst in the entire game. There are plenty of tracks that make me more annoyed, or have way worse design decisions than Toad's Turnpike. However, looking at the track holistically, I'm sorry, Toad's Turnpike is flat out boring. The layout remains a basic figure 8. The anti-grav and flying mechanics here are pretty much non-existent. They just don't really add to the course at all. And while cars on other courses like Shroom Ridge or Moonview Highway enhance those courses' already fun layouts, because Toad's Turnpike is so boring, the cars is all that's here. And that is not nearly a good enough gimmick to rank this snooze fest above any other track in the game. The second worst track is Toad's Circuit, and I'm sorry Toad fans, because it's not looking good for y'all, but Toad's Circuit is also incredibly boring. This is by far the worst looking track in the game. Visually, it's straight up ugly at points. However, it slightly edges out Toad's Turnpike because even though the layout is also very generic, at least there's like an off-road ramp and you can cut these pipes off at the end, giving us at least one moment of solace in this otherwise also very boring track. New York Minute is the worst city course in this entire game, and it's not particularly close. The cars are placed onto the course as objects rather than moving vehicles, and there's just nothing that fun here. Even if you try and cut the grass here, Lakitu will just pull you back to the course. What is going on? I hate New York Minute. Number 93 is Baby Park. Okay, hear me out. This is by its very nature probably gonna be one of the most controversial picks on this entire list. Some people love this track because it is pure chaos. There are items everywhere, and while obviously it's possible to win any Mario Kart course even if you're technically the worst skilled player in the lobby, nowhere does that happen more than in Baby Park. This is a pretty unique course. You're not gonna get gameplay like this anywhere else, but I'm sorry. 7 laps around a small oval with items constantly swirling all around you, it is just not very fun. Baby Park is the type of course you want to race on once and then never again for the rest of the year. Bone Dry Dunes slots in at number 92 as the first Mario Kart 8 original course in this ranking. This course is pretty conceptually cool. I like driving on this skeleton anti-gravity path, but besides that, it's just kind of a slightly worse version of a desert Mario Kart course, and I also just don't think the desert courses are that good to begin with. So that leaves Bone Dry Dunes with a generic presentation, generic layout, and nothing really interesting to carry it up on the rankings. Number 91 is Tokyo Blur. Okay, I'm not gonna have a ton to say about the city courses because, to be honest, a lot of them are just boring. I understand that the laps change, which does help them slightly in terms of replayability, but you're still just driving around a city. It's somewhat boring, and specifically in Tokyo Blur, I hate the third lap of this course. This entire bridge section is super boring, and to end off the whole race like this, I don't like it. Sky High Sunday is a very weird course. Visually, it's definitely unique, but the layout is just like if you stretched out Baby Park and made everything trickable. You basically have to be shaking the controller at all times because literally everything you do here will result in a trick. On top of that, you can bump into almost anything and get an anti-grav spin boost. This course just does not feel that fun to actually race on. Paris Promenade is another generic city course. Look at me, I'm under the Eiffel Tower. Ooh, so cool. London Loop is one of the rare city courses with some interesting personality. This chain chomp who starts running around on lap 3 is pretty funny, but oh my goodness, this course goes on for way too long. Water Park might just be the most disappointing course in this entire game. The idea of a Mario Kart course set in a water park is awesome. However, everything about this racetrack takes that awesome concept and turns it so generic it's not even funny. Literally, look at the name, it's called Water Park. We couldn't get more creative than that? Cheap Cheap Beach has its moments, specifically this ending turn, which leads to some frantic conclusions, but everything else is just a bit too generic. Vancouver Velocity is another city course that has some cool ideas, but just horrible execution. Nobody racing on this course for the first time will understand where to go when they reach the ice rink. I've played this game with so many people, everyone gets confused, and that's just a hallmark of bad course design. Sherbertland is cute and the vibes are great, but once again the layout is just pretty boring. Also, there is technically an alternate path here, but it takes so much longer than just going normally that it's completely unviable and kinda useless as a result. Realistically, Sky Garden is just a generic Mario circuit layout, but put in the sky. The shortcut at the end and the leaves that you can bounce on are pretty fun, but a race here is also over before you know it. Bangkok Rush is another city course. Again, don't really know what to say. There are some fun shortcuts here though. However, the upper level of this subway station has some turns that are literally not possible to do in actual races, so I don't even, like, why did they even add this up here? No one is taking this path. Amsterdam Drift coming in at number 81 makes sense. It's another generic city course. It's slightly better in the layout department than some of the other ones, but I'm sorry, most of the city courses just do not hold a candle to the actual Mario Kart courses that were, you know, designed as Mario Kart courses and not like 3 different laps for a mobile game that were just then combined together into one course. Number 80 is Merry Mountain, and I really want to like this course more. A Christmas Mario Kart course is awesome, but the layout here is just pretty boring. It cannot be ranked any higher. Singapore Speedway has some interesting ideas and definitely leans a bit more into actual Mario Kart course territory since they get creative with it. You're like gliding on top of buildings and going through fountains, all that. Berlin Byways is just funny, man. Why did they choose Womps falling down to represent the Berlin Wall? Why did they feel like they needed to represent that in a Mario Kart course? I don't know, there are some fun turns here though, and the cars keep you on your toes. Another city course, Madrid Drive lets you drive through Madrid.
Are you serious?
Again, this is one of the better city courses, but if this was just placed in another Mario Kart game with other Mario Kart courses, it would be one of the worst ones. Ending off this little city course skid we got here, we have LA Laps. It is cool that you get to fly through a baseball stadium. I like the half pipes and stuff they have on the beach, and going through this oil field, although the section's a little boring, does make this course actually progress like a Mario Kart course with different areas and sections and all that. At number 75, we have Excite Bike. For what it is, I really do enjoy this course. It's simple and it owns it. It's a BMX track. The fact that it randomly generates itself too is a cool concept, but just not executed that well because you can barely actually tell that they're swapping around the different parts of the racetrack because everything is just, oh, go uphill and trick. Oh boy, this one's definitely going to be contentious, so make sure to leave your reasoning as to why you disagree down in the comments below. I mean, obviously that goes for every course in this ranking, but specifically this one. Number 74 is Bowser's Castle, the new one for Mario Kart 8. It sounds a little crazy that I'm putting this so low because typically Bowser's Castles have been incredible, and maybe I'm ranking this course unfairly based on the quality of other Bowser's Castle courses, but honestly, Bowser's Castle for Mario Kart 8 is just nothing special. Everything here has been done far better in other Bowser's Castles. Specifically, this giant Bowser that makes you choose a path. We've seen this like 2 or 3 times already. Besides that one section, there's really nothing here. And especially considering this is the only Bowser's Castle course developed in HD, I would have loved to see a lot more. I think other Bowser's Castle courses do this entire gimmick so much better. I do want to make something clear though. From this point on, we are definitely in the territory of not bad Mario Kart tracks. Bowser's Castle for Mario Kart 8 is not a bad track. However, there are so many really good tracks in this game that it is in the bottom half of this list. I just think all the other tracks I'm about to talk about are a bit or a lot better depending on the track. Choco Mountain is probably just the most, oh yeah, that's a track, course in this entire game. It's simple and doesn't try and do anything insane, but everything it does is pretty fun. I do gotta knock it some points though for literally looking like shit. Boo Lake is pretty fun. I love the fact that part's underwater. However, this entire course just feels too small. It's also over so fast, so if you can get out to a lead at the start, you can pretty much always win. I don't have that many fun Mario Kart moments playing this track. Wario Stadium, once again, doesn't really do anything too crazy. Despite the fact that you're like boosting through fire rings and whatnot, I always felt this course was like a little empty. I know they didn't exist at the time that they were making this for the Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but half pipes would have been awesome here. Rock Mountain is a very interesting course. Most other courses in Mario Kart 8 and 7 for that matter use gliding as a supplemental aspect to the main course, but here it's pretty much built around gliding. For most of this course, you will be flying around, and I'm just gonna be honest, on Mario Kart 7 this course was amazing because flying in that game was amazing. In Mario Kart 8, flying around feels like trying to plug something into a power outlet with all the lights off. It's pretty clumsy, decently slow, and never works the way you want it to. Because of that, this course is just a little mid. Number 69 is Daisy Cruiser. I'm sorry to all the Double Dash fans who love this course. I like the aesthetic, and the layout's decent, but it's nothing super creative and also over very fast. Sunset Wilds pisses me off. Many years before the Booster Course Pass was even announced, I came up with a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe expansion pass idea. Me and my friend fully 3D modeled different courses that would be released through different waves. Oh, this sounds familiar. Yeah, so I basically predicted the Booster Course Pass, no big deal, and one of the courses we fully modeled was Sunset Wilds, just because I think it's so sick that this course is entirely based around the fact that the sun sets the further on into the course you go. I was so excited to see this in HD that we literally 3D modeled it up, and then Nintendo was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna remove the sunset of Sunset Wilds. Obviously that annoys me a ton, but the layout here is still kind of fun, which is why it's not like dead last place. There's a lot of fun mushroom cuts here. The Shy Guys get in your way. This track was just so close to being a lot cooler, but you know, they just couldn't add in a sunset. Number 67 is Waluigi Pinball. Oh boy, I can see the comments now. Yes, this is widely regarded to be one of the best Mario Kart tracks in the entire series, and I was one of those people who was so excited when it finally got revealed for the Booster Course Pass. However, and I cannot stress this enough, I do not think this course plays very well in Mario Kart 8 specifically. On Mario Kart DS, I remember loving this course. I thought it was super fun and creative, and it still is very creative, but in its translation over to Mario Kart 8, it definitely lost some of what made it so special. The track was scaled up a ton, so it feels a lot bigger, which I think is a good thing. There's obviously more racers here, but I don't think the layout and turns of this track really work in this scaled up setting. There are also zero shortcuts in this entire track, and just because of the way this game's items function, it is almost impossible to catch up to first place here. Everyone else is getting hit by items, first place gets way out into the front, and then you could get hit by like 2 blue shells and a lightning, and first place will still win. Number 66 is Athens Dash. Spoiler alert, this isn't the best city track in the entire ranking, but it's obviously way higher up on the list, and that's just because, dang, this doesn't even really feel like a city track. You're driving around, I guess, the city of Athens, but it's all ruined with fallen pillars you can trick off of. There are still some weird city track turns here, but they're not as bad. Cloudtop Cruise is a fun course. The music is great, the graphics are awesome, and the layout is overall pretty fun. I absolutely hate this thundercloud section though. Yes, driving through a thundercloud is cool, and the fact that lightning spawns makes it even better stylistically, but most of the time when you have a section like this where there's so many boost panels, it's kind of just a nothing burger section, because even if you have a mushroom, it's not like that'll help you catch up because everyone is getting boosted at Mach 10. Because this is towards the end of the course, I think it brings down the layout overall. Calamari Desert is a very simple course that would be ranked a lot worse if not for the fact that you can actually now drive through the tunnel following the train tracks, avoiding the train. This one is pretty fun. The lap changing gimmick adds a decent amount here, and while I still have my nitpicks, mainly this giant red girder that looks so out of place, the changing laps here actually helps to elevate the overall course's layout, unlike other courses where I feel like it does the opposite. A track that changes seasons is such an awesome idea, and Animal Crossing does capitalize on this pretty well. First of all, the 4 different variants of this track are absolutely beautiful, and the small tweaks to the layout, whether it's snowmans added in winter or extra ramps in spring, are great additions. However, I would have loved to see more in this. Imagine if in winter there were giant snowdrifts blocking your path, opening up an entirely different layout for that version of the track. The overall layout is pretty standard, and the seasons idea is really cool. I just, again, think it could have been a bit cooler. Number 62 is the first Rainbow Road out of the 5 in this game. Yeah, that's right, this game has 5 Rainbow Roads, that's insane. And the worst one is N64 Rainbow Road. Stylistically, this is probably the best Rainbow Road, ironically. I mean, there's a reason they used it for the box art. It truly feels like a grand finale. However, it was absolutely butchered by the fact that they turned this course into a 1 lap instead of the 3 laps it's supposed to be. Because even on the N64, this course was never that difficult. There's a lot more railings, even more so now than pretty much any other Rainbow Road I've ever played. And there are a lot of turns, but they're all pretty gentle banking turns. There's nothing like super sharp here. What made this course so difficult and worthy of the Rainbow Road moniker was the fact that it was an absolute marathon, but now it's one of the shortest courses in the game. Number 61 is Mario Circuit. This entire course takes the semblance of a Mobius strip to really hammer home that yeah, this game has anti-gravity now. Conceptually, this is a fun course, however, the main thing is the anti-gravity. That's like why they made this course, was to show off the anti-gravity. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm a quote Syndrome from The Incredibles here. When everything is anti-gravity, none of it is. You do not really feel like you're driving upside down in this course, because as you're playing it, you're just following the path, and the path happens to slowly rotate upside down, but you never feel like you're really driving upside down, which ironically means this course built to show off the anti-gravity gimmick gets outshone by many others that show it off way better. Ice Ice Outpost is a fun course that really emphasizes this split path gimmick. There are some fun shortcuts here, and the splitting paths are pretty fun, but it doesn't do anything super special. I feel a similar way about TikTok Clock. Aesthetically, I love this. Some of the shortcuts are really fun too when you're cutting over the hands of the clock, but besides that, I don't feel like this course leads to any insane Mario Kart moments like the other ones. Piranha Plant Slide is one of the most average courses in this game. Ironically, it's ranked 58, I guess like 48 and 49 would be the actual average. But to me, I don't know, Piranha Plant Slide just screams very good, but also kind of mid. Again, it's very good, but there are so many other courses in this game that at least have something that's like a wow factor. And this one just doesn't really have that. I love the layout though, the shortcut at the end is super fun. The underground section is really good too. This sort of sentiment goes for a lot of the courses in the middle of this ranking, but it does everything it sets out to do really well. Again, I love this game, I like this course. So while it does everything it sets out to do well, it also doesn't set out to reinvent the wheel. Same sort of thing for Peach Gardens, although it's higher up because I once again think that the changing lap gimmick here is awesome. One great thing that Mario Kart Tour did was allow people to play reverse variants of every single track. For some tracks, this was nothing more than a fun gimmick, but for others, it truly made the track feel completely unique, like you were playing it for the first time. Peach Gardens is kind of like this. Running through it twice normally and then going back through reverse is genuinely fun, and it adds a lot to this track. Twisted Mansion is a real fun ghost house with a lot of fun moments. I'm not really sure how the ghost house is flooded. Also, if you bump into the boos while flying, you should either phase through them or they should hurt you because they're an enemy, but instead you just bounce off them as if you're bumping into a wall, which makes no sense. At number 55, we have Grumble Volcano, which is marked by its main gimmick, the crumbling terrain. Every lap, this course gets thinner and thinner as chunks of the racetrack fall into the lava, which is a great gimmick, but I feel like it was a lot more pronounced on the Wii. I'm just gonna be honest, you don't really notice this that much when you're playing on Mario Kart 8. Yes, you see the parts of the track fall, but it's never a big enough part of the track that it's like actually impeding your racing. Again, a great gimmick, but I would have loved to see them lean into it more. Wario's Gold Mine is such a fun track, but one of the things that made it so devilishly challenging on the Wii was the fact that the minecarts damaged you. Here they give you a boost, which feels so wrong. Rome Avanti is the second best city course in this entire game. Like many of the other city courses, this one is completely busted in the cohesion category. A lot of this course just doesn't make sense, and there are 100% sections where turns feel like they come out of nowhere, but at least here they leaned into the Mario aspect of Mario Kart. It doesn't feel like you're just racing around a city, it does feel like this was genuinely designed to be a full Mario Kart course, with chain chumps jumping at you and rocky wrenches boosting out of the ground. Riverside Park might just be the best looking course in the entire Booster Course Pass. Visually, this one's on another level, and I love the gimmick of the little patooies that can occasionally blow bananas or mushrooms onto the course. This is a fun one with some hairpin turns, but unfortunately, it's over way too quickly, and this final cave section kind of prevents anyone from actually catching up in the final area, which contributes to this course's biggest problem. It feels like it's over way too quick. Rosalina's Ice World is one of the hardest courses in this entire game. This first turn is devilish, and not even in a good way, because a lot of the time if you fall off here, it's because the camera decided to just go absolutely insane, which is one of the only times in this game I can say the camera's actively working against you. However, there's some awesome tech you can do with the half pipes to actually get up onto the ice during laps 2 and 3, which is way faster and 100% adds to the replayability. Ninja Hideaway is a course that I really like, and I want to love, but I just can't. For some reason, every single time I play this course, I'm gonna be honest, I kinda like it less and less. The layout feels very much like a collection of different straightaways that all have their own gimmick. This is the straightaway where you're on the roof. This is the straightaway where you gotta avoid the things from the ceiling. This is the straightaway where you go off the ramp and fly. I love the shortcuts, and a lot of the gimmicks here are fun, but to me, it's not really that fun to play. It's definitely not more fun to play than anything else I'm about to talk about. DK Jungle is a fun Donkey Kong course with a great layout. There's a decent amount of stuff going on here, such as flowers to super bounce off of, and these giant pillars that can blow you away while you glide. Electrodrome, yes, drome, not dome, is such a bizarre track. I guess it's like an EDM rave theme, which is super cool for a Mario Kart course, and the layout is pretty fun too. Again, it doesn't do anything super crazy in the layout department, but it is fun, and that section where you drift onto different keys that play little musical hits before you glide is so fun. Waluigi Stadium is, in my opinion, how you do these BMX arena sort of Mario Kart courses. You're just racing around some dirt path, but there's so much here that you're constantly on your toes. Half pipes that can lead to whole different paths, bumps to trick off, dirt patches to avoid, or mushroom through. This one's a great time. Sweet Sweet Canyon is a fun course. I'm gonna be honest, I'm trying to think of anything better to say about it, but that's about it. It is fun. Considering it's in the first cup in this game, it doesn't need to do anything else, and it really doesn't. Besides just being a fun course with some cool shortcuts, branching paths, it'll always be a good time, but it's rarely a great time. I feel a very similar way about Moo Moo Meadows. This course is theoretically as basic as it gets in the layout department, but the cows that walk across the path will never not make me smile, and the fact that there's so much off-road here means that you really want to be taking your lines pretty tight, because half the lobby is just gonna pass you if they have a mushroom anyway. Number 44 is Bowser's Castle 3. Yes, I guess I'm continuing with the Bowser's Castle slander by not having this one any higher. However, I do not think this is a bad course. In fact, obviously, I think it's a lot better than the other Bowser's Castle in this game, despite theoretically being a lot more simple. I think from a layout perspective though, it's a lot more challenging, which just inherently makes it feel like a better Bowser's Castle than Mario Kart 8's. Jumping over lava or trying to balance on these extremely narrow paths help this one boost up, but again, it is pretty simple. It's just a, it's a flat Bowser's Castle. Music Park is overall just an incredibly solid track. Every section of this one is just super fun. When my biggest complaint about a track is that the name is better in a different region, then you know it's pretty solid. But seriously though, the EU version of this game apparently got Melody Motorway, which is way better than Music Park. Nintendo, what are we thinking? Daisy Circuit is always a good time. There's some almost magnetic force when you go off the glider shortcut that makes you come back down, and that's kind of annoying, but besides that, everything else about this course is just plain fun. The fact that you can drive on the sidewalks too, I love when they add in little details like that, because it's like, alright, most of the time, driving on the sidewalk does not actually help, but sometimes it is technically the tighter line, so it just adds a little bit more to do in these courses. Yoshi Valley has such a unique layout. No other course has this many branching paths. It almost feels like a maze at times, and I love that idea. However, unfortunately, I'm not really judging this course based on that gimmick because there's just one path that is so much better than the others that it kind of ruins the entire purpose. If Nintendo really wants to make an awesome branching path course that leans into the idea as hard as Yoshi Valley, they have to make the different paths all actually viable, because here there's only one that actually works. Fortunately though, if you strip away all the other stuff and just look at the main layout that 99% of people are going to be taking every time they race this track, it's still a fun layout, and I am a sucker for being able to take a cool mushroom cut at the end, which this course definitely checks off. Speaking of which, Dry Dry Desert is a hilarious course because the entire thing is pretty much a mushroom cut. The actual layout is fun, but what truly elevates this course to being in the top half of the entire game is the fact that if you get a mushroom or a gold mushroom or whatever, you can take the line of your life and it just feels like you're going so much faster than everyone else. DS Mario Circuit is another banger circuit course. Despite being labeled as a Mario circuit, it doesn't really feel like one. Graphically, it obviously does, but these hairpin turns at the end feel like something you'd see in a more difficult Mario Kart course and, well, not a Mario circuit, but I'm all here for it. Shout out the Wiggler too, he's awesome. I love Mario Kart Stadium. I think this might be my favorite first course in any Mario Kart game. Obviously, it doesn't set out to be that complex because it's literally the first course you play in this game. However, that does not mean it's boring, far from it. There are plenty of off-road cuts you can take here. The cut you can do at the end with the glider is in particular really fun, and I just feel like they nailed the layout here. It feels like every turn is very cohesive. It all works together to make a great Mario Kart track, and again, ironically, I think this does a better job of actually showing off the anti-gravity than the Figure 8 Mario circuit because it's used sparingly here rather than across the whole track. Number 37 is Moonview Highway. It is so funny to me that this ranks so highly compared to a lot of the other city courses, because a lot of the other city courses theoretically could have just been kind of like this. Rather than like driving through the city, it's just a Mario Kart course where you kind of drive past a city, I guess. However, because of that, Moonview Highway feels like a really fun Mario Kart course. There's a natural progression as you go throughout a lap. The boost panels are actually random, which again adds to replayability. However, the main reason it's not any higher is also because of the boost panels. Again, if there's a section where there's a bunch of boost panels all at once, it makes it almost impossible for you to catch up because everyone is already going at their max speed. On top of the fact that sending a red shell in this course pretty much does nothing because it is guaranteed to hit a car. Besides that though, this one's awesome. Shroom Ridge, in my opinion, is better than Moonview Highway, which is kind of funny because graphically it looks way worse. We'll just get that out of the way now. This is not a very good looking course, but the turns here are so fun. The hairpin turns towards the start allow you to get some insane drift boosts, which you then have to use weaving throughout different cars. The flying sections are fun too. There's a good cut at the end. This really has it all, again, except for like actually textured grass, Nintendo. What are we doing? Hyrule Circuit took the illustrious history of the Legend of Zelda series and expertly transitioned it into a Mario Kart track. You drive through Hyrule Castle, you can activate the Master Sword, there's some Zelda enemies here. I mean, theoretically, everything's here, and I understand why they did it this way because, again, this is the first time Zelda has ever gotten a track in Mario Kart. But the main thing I think of when racing through this is, man, there could be so many other insane Zelda tracks in Mario Kart, and this one is fun. It checks most of the boxes you would need, but from a layout perspective, it doesn't do anything super unique. Once again, this one's probably gonna be a little controversial. A lot of people probably have this in their top 10, maybe even top 5, maybe even top 1. But in my list, it's number 34. I'm talking about 3DS Rainbow Road. I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to get into exactly why I don't love this course here because I just made a video that was super in-depth just about ranking the 5 Rainbow Roads. I went through a ton of different categories, ranked them all, and I'll link it at the end of this video because it goes into my thoughts way more in-depth, obviously. But I'll sum it up by saying 3DS Rainbow Road has a lot of cool ideas, and some of those ideas are executed so well. Specifically, driving on the rings of the planet is awesome, and even driving on the moon is pretty fun too, but I think the final lap of this course is awful. Completely ruined from the 3DS version. That final turn used to be genuinely difficult, and now it's just a nothing burger. I mean, this should go without saying, but especially on tracks where every lap is different, having the final lap be underwhelming means that just in practice, these races never have really chaotic, super fun conclusions, which makes it just not as fun. Koopa Cape was one of my favorite tracks on Mario Kart Wii, and it's ranked number 33 here, which is high up. Again, I still think this is a very good track. We are in like very, very fun territory. I'll be stoked anytime these show up randomly or online, but compared to the Wii version, Koopa Cape kind of got neutered in the Booster Course Pass, specifically because the underwater section is now actually underwater. So A, you no longer have the spinning electrical hazards you have to avoid, and B, there's no flowing water in the middle of the tube to help you speed up. Removing those two parts of the underwater section just makes it kind of boring. Jumping back to another Rainbow Road, we have the SNES Rainbow Road. This one is fast-paced, chaotic, and just fun. Because it is a complete remake of the SNES course, there's not a ton they can add here. The ground now shakes when the thwomps hit it, and there are some ramps that'll allow you to jump over the void, which is super fun. Again, this course does everything it sets out to do great, so I gotta give it its props, despite how simple it kinda is overall. Toad Harbor is in contention for one of the most underrated tracks in the entire game. First of all, this song is top tier Mario Kart full stop. Second of all, this is just a really fun course. The anti-gravity adds to the gimmick since driving on the wall takes longer, but can reward you with some extra items and you don't have to worry about bumping into the trolleys. All the turns are really fun. Nothing about this track misses. It's just hit after hit after hit. I'm gonna be honest, same with Mario Circuit GBA. I know I just talked about how SNES Rainbow Road was a little simplistic, and I've kind of been talking down on simplistic tracks in this video, but Mario Circuit GBA is what happens when you take a simplistic track and do it excellently. It just feels cohesive, it's fun to drive on. It's a well-designed track, and I gotta give it its props. The anti-gravity section is short but fun, there's a fun glider in the off-road, and you can go into the pit stop to get an extra item. Come on, that's a great detail. Piranha Plant Cove really surprised me. Initially, I thought it was kind of going to be like a city track, because it takes the same design ethos with the laps changing every time, but this is a genuinely well-designed course that deserves its flowers. I'm super glad they brought it over to Mario Kart 8 so that it could be experienced in a true mainline Mario Kart, because it's creative, fun, and most importantly, even though the laps change every time, there's no real boring sections here. It's kind of hitting you with banger after banger after banger. Dragon Driftway actually might be the most underrated track in this game, and genuinely one of the most underrated tracks in the entire series. I hear no one ever talk about this track, but it is just so fun. There's a pretty difficult but super rewarding shortcut you can do where you jump over this entire turn with a well-timed drift hop. Aesthetically, this course is on another level, and the twisty, curvy nature of driving on a dragon is just so fun. Donut Plains 3 is the epitome of substance over style. On its surface, this course does nothing special, but the layout is awesome. No matter how far back you are, some well-timed mushrooms here will always help you catch up. I just always have fun racing on this one. Same thing goes for Mario Circuit 3, even more so, because in the style department, this course is terrible. It looks awful. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't care, because it is fun. It's so fun. Mario Circuit 3 is one of the most fun courses to race on in this entire game. Yes, it's all flat. Yes, there's no real, gimmick here, but it simply doesn't matter, because you're not thinking about that when you're slingshotting your cart around these insane hairpin turns while racing here. This course has the perfect amount of off-road mushroom cuts and tight turns, so you could be racing this one over and over again, constantly trying to improve your lines. That's the hallmark of a very fun Mario Kart course. I know it doesn't look good, but it plays good, and that's what matters. Dolphin Shoals has a really fun layout, featuring probably my favorite underwater section in the entire game, where you go over these pipes that can boost you up, and then spam tricks on top of this eel. Emerging from the water is straight up euphoric, because what else needs to be said about this song that hasn't been said 10,000 times already on YouTube? Sydney Sprint is by far the best city course in this game, and it's not even remotely close. I wish I had better reasoning as to why this one's so high up, because it doesn't have a lot of the things that I praised some of the earlier city courses for. What it does have, though, is consistently fun turns, a very cohesive design where you're never confused about where to go, and fun shortcuts. This feels like a Mario Circuit type course that's actually 3 different Mario Circuits, because again, the lap changes, but the lap changing isn't a detriment, it's a plus, which again, can't be said about most other city courses. I love Sydney Sprint, and the music slaps too. Taking a massive glider up to the top of this giant mountain and then proceeding to slalom your way down it, avoiding giant boulders, would already make this into a banger course. But the mini little gap cut here, added on top of the fact that the entire course culminates on this crazy thin, super hectic wavy bridge, turns DK Mountain into a contender for the top. The original Rainbow Road for Mario Kart 8 is a bit of a weird Rainbow Road considering it's set on a space station, but the layout here is really fun. It captures the difficulty you're supposed to have in a Rainbow Road with some really sharp turns, and the split paths at the end, including the part where you can go from one path to another, are executed perfectly. Every Mario Kart game has a couple of courses, not counting the Rainbow Roads, that seem to be designed with the sole intention of being a noticeable difficulty spike from the rest of the game. Neo Bowser City is a great example of that. This is a genuinely tough course with some really tricky turns. However, that's a great thing. I'm a believer in the mentality that, to I guess a point, Mario Kart courses that are more difficult will naturally be more fun because it gives you, the player, more to work towards, more to improve on. And despite me having well over 1,000 hours in Mario Kart 8, Neo Bowser City is a great example of that. I'm still trying to get better at nailing these hairpin turns. There are so many opportunities in this course for you to constantly be improving, taking better lines, shaving off seconds from your time. It feels almost endlessly replayable in that sense. Yoshi's Circuit should not be this high up on the list. I've made it abundantly clear. Above all else, what I'm ranking in these courses is the layout. How fun is the layout to drive on? For Yoshi's Circuit, the developers had no creative flexibility because the layout is just Yoshi. But somehow, that still results in an insanely fun course with some of the most iconic moments in this entire game. This is a genuinely really fun, well-designed course, which is funny because they didn't even design it, it's just Yoshi. Maple Tree Way is a masterclass in creative course design. Launching yourself up to the top of this tree, whizzing by wigglers, passing through leaf piles. This is an excellent course with brilliant theming because this just feels like fall, man. I mean, this is autumn to me. This is October, this is September, this is the perfect course to give off those vibes. Coconut Mall is just hectic, chaotic fun. Driving through a shopping mall, taking shortcuts through the stores, avoiding cars in the parking lot. This is just a blast through and through. Thwomp Ruins is another genuinely incredible Mario Kart 8 Nitro course. The aesthetic here is perfect, everything from the graphical style to the music itself. But what makes this course so fun to me is the back half. During this one section, you can either glide, go underwater, go anti-grav, or just try and avoid the thwomps on the paths, but then everyone groups back up together for this final section. And with everyone so clumped together, it makes this ending shortcut so difficult to pull off in an actual race that's super tightly contested, but it's so good if you can do it. This is just a great track. track. Shy Guy Falls is kinda the same way. It's just a really well-designed Mario Kart course. Racing up and down a waterfall feels so fun, and truly makes you feel that anti-gravity isn't just a marketing gimmick, but a true next step in evolution for the Mario Kart formula. On top of the fact, there's this final shortcut that you can do without a mushroom. I would put a big asterisk next to that though, cause it's really tough. I would consider myself pretty good at this game. I can pull off most shortcuts every time. This one though, not a chance. I fail this like most of the time I try it, but I still try it every time, because if you're able to drift hop over this entire grass cut, you just feel like a legend. At number 15, we have Royal Raceway. This one's really high up on the list, and for good reason. It's just, once again, say it with me now, a fun track. Visually, it looks good, but the layout here is what carries it to the top. It's super cohesive, and there's never any downtime. I just love this one. Sunshine Airport might be one of the most iconic tracks from this game, and for good reason. Driving through an airport is awesome, but then flying up with an airplane is even cooler and helps propel this track towards the top of the list. Going from planes to trains, we have Super Bell Subway. Ironically enough, this track's core concept has a lot in common with the worst track I ranked here, which is Toad's Turnpike. Toad's Turnpike, you're going through a turnpike. There's a bunch of cars blocking your path. Super Bell Subway, you go through a subway. There's a bunch of train cars blocking your path. What makes this track so much better is the layout. First of all, you're not entirely in the subway the whole time. That allows you to race through the lobby a little bit, which adds variety and a couple of shortcuts. Even when you're under the subway, there are still some off-road cuts here, and then different paths you can go up above. You can ride on top of the train cars. The turns are way tighter, allowing you to take more fun lines. It takes the vague core concept that it somewhat shares with Toad's Turnpike and just executes it way better. I love Snowland, just personally, I love this track. It's genuinely so fun to race on every time. Not only is the gap cut super easy yet super rewarding to pull off, but everything else, from avoiding the penguins on the ice, mushrooming through the snow, the two shortcuts you can pull off at the end of the race, like everything here is just perfect. Again, it doesn't try and do anything super crazy. There's no anti-gravity here, but it doesn't need it. It's just a fun course with an excellent layout, great shortcuts. What else could you ask for? Wild Woods consistently pushes the boundary of what Mario Kart tracks can even be. You start this track out in anti-gravity, fully vertical, going up a tree. Then you glide through like a Shy Guy forest village. There's this rushing water section, which is awesome. There's so much fun going on here. The music is also, once again, a banger. The track is actually in 5/4, which I think it might be the only Mario Kart track in 5/4. Music nerds, let me know down in the comments below if there's any others. I can't think of any. But yeah, Wild Woods is a banger, and it gets number 11 on this massive ranking of 96 courses, which means we're now in the top 10. Also, just a reminder, once we get through the top 10, I'm going to be ranking all the cups and all that stuff, which in my opinion is arguably more interesting than actually just ranking every single track, is like seeing the averages of everything. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that as well. I'd like to make it clear, every track I've been talking about for like the last 20 minutes have all been really, really good, like super high quality. I would be stoked to race on them. But I do genuinely believe that these final 10 tracks are not only by far and away the best in this game, but also some of the best tracks in the entire series. And we're starting it off with DK Summit. Everything about this Donkey Kong themed ski mountain is absolutely incredible. Whether it's the Shy Guys actually taking the half pipes, the mogul section, or even these cliff faces you have to drift past. Everything here is so fun. And this goes without saying for pretty much every track in the entire video, and especially the ones we're yet to talk about, but the music, it slaps. Mushroom Gorge could be so annoying. A track where the main gimmick is just repeatedly bouncing on mushrooms very easily could have landed itself towards the worst part of this list. But Mushroom Gorge's biggest strength is its restraint in actually using that gimmick. You can take one as an optional shortcut, then you can take one as an optional path, and then they hit you over the head in the cave with a bunch of them. But using red mushrooms that bounce you and green mushrooms that are just normal drivable platforms, plus a blue one that lets you glide, really helps solidify this gimmick as a banger. And yeah, the final gap cut is still here and still absolutely slaps. I love shortcuts, I love mushroom gap shortcuts, and I love shortcuts at the end of the lap. This one checks all of those boxes and is one of the best shortcuts in this entire game. Mute City is just fun, man. The first of 2 F-Zero tracks, yes, that's right, both F-Zero tracks are within the top 10. Mute City is fast. You instantly get up to 10 coins with the little coin path over to the side, and while you're constantly moving at breakneck speed, there are still some pretty tricky turns here, especially at the end. This course feels like speed incarnate in all the best ways. Number 7 is Cheeseland. This might shock some people. I understand this course is loved and hated by members of the Mario Kart community, but I can't help but love it. Anytime you play this course online, you will encounter a lot of baggers, which is basically the art, and yes, it is an art, of racing poorly to get good items and then using those items to cut into first at the last second. No other course allows this to happen as funnily as Cheeseland. Because the final section of this course has so much off-road and 2 glider cuts, you can go from last to first in the final part of lap 3. I understand a lot of people think the idea of bagging is inherently not fun, but I'd have to hard disagree. It definitely has its moments. And even if you're not bagging, this course is just sweet. There's a lot of fun turns here, the perfect amount of little divots you can trick from. You might hate it, but I love it. Cheeseland is the 7th best course in this game. Number 6 is Squeaky Clean Sprint. This entire course is set in a bathroom, but because you're shrunken down to such a small degree, they're able to throw so many different situations at you, driving over a sink, into a bathtub, through a drain, over a toilet. There's just a lot going on here, and there's a ton of different paths you can take, but they all feel viable. Squeaky Clean Sprint is so much fun. It's probably the second most fun I've ever had in a bathroom, and I won't elaborate on that. What else needs to be said about Mount Wario? I'm sure for a lot of you, this is the number 1 course in this game. Each different lap of this course is just so fun. It truly feels like an absolute journey, where you start off in a helicopter at a mountain's peak, go past cliffs, through a dam, through the forest, and end up on a ski slope. What else needs to be said about Mount Wario? It's just that good. The only thing I don't really love about it is the final section. After you go off that last glider ramp, there's one small patch of off-road you can cut, but it's a little bit anticlimactic. Such a small nitpick though, this course is absolutely incredible. Coming in at number 4, we have Ribbon Road. This is a brilliant course that has the perfect amount of risk versus reward. Every single turn you take in this course is just screaming at you to take it as tight as possible. So when you get the option to take a couple of shortcuts towards the end, they're so enticing, but if you don't have the right line for them, they're almost impossible to consistently hit, especially in like an online race where you're constantly getting hit with items and all that. Ribbon Road is just the perfect example of fun, the Mario Kart course. Everything here is fun. It's consistently fun throughout. That's the most important thing when designing a Mario Kart course. And I will also say that I have time trialed this game a little bit. I'm not super into the time trial scene, but I've dabbled here and there. This is my favorite course to time trial, and it's not particularly close. Me and my friends used to grind Ribbon Road to try and shave off milliseconds from our times. No other course in this game, in my opinion, has such a fun time trial, and that just speaks to how clean this layout is. It's so fun. Perfect amount of shortcuts, off-road mushroom cuts, sharp turns, shallow turns, obstacles to avoid. It's just a blast, man. It's time for the top 3 courses in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Number 3 is Wii Rainbow Road. This is the best Rainbow Road in this game, and one of the best courses in this game. It does everything that a Rainbow Road or a difficult Mario Kart course should do. It has sharp turns, fun shortcuts, enticing boost panels that might just send you straight off if you're not lined up right. Graphically, this course is awesome, and I love the effect that they kept from the Wii version, where driving off turns you into like a bit of a meteor before Galactu picks you up. Everything about Wii Rainbow Road is utter perfection, and I'm so glad they picked this course to end off the Booster Course Pass. However, it's not the best course in the Booster Course Pass, because that goes to number 2, Yoshi's Island. I know this is a new course, so I'm not sure if people are ready to have this discussion yet, but I'll be the first to come out and say it. I think Yoshi's Island is incredible. One of the best courses they've ever made. I am consistently blown away by how fun this course is. First, let me just talk about the layout. It's awesome. It has everything you'd possibly want, with fun turns, fast changing locations, enemies and obstacles to avoid, and even an awesome gimmick at the end where if you hit this floating cloud, you can spawn a different path which is way faster, which adds so much variety and fun to every replay of this track. Additionally, I have to shout out the aesthetic here. I'm a pretty big fan of Yoshi's Island for the SNES, but I wouldn't even say I'm like a huge diehard fan. I've played it a couple times, loved what I played, and that's about it. But the fact that they were able to so expertly translate this SNES game over to a full Mario Kart course with such insane representation blows me away. The Yoshi's Island course represents the Yoshi's Island series better than like Hyrule Circuit represents the Zelda series. There are so many little Easter eggs, references, biomes from the game that you travel through, enemies that you go past. The color palette is so bright and evokes that exact same art style from the games. I love the Yoshi's Island track. There's a lot of tracks in this game where I think they do a really good job, but very few where I wouldn't change a single thing. This is one of those tracks. Not only is it a super fun track to race on, but it's filled with glorious references and I absolutely love it. If you've been counting along at home, you know what this track is. Also, if you've seen many of my other Mario Kart videos, you know I love this track too, because I can't stop talking about it. The best track in this game is Big Blue. This takes the fast, chaotic nature of Mute City, multiplies it by the brilliance of Mount Wario's different laps, and then sprinkles in some of the most fun shortcuts in the entire game. Big Blue is an absolute treat to race on. There's so much going on at all times, but it never distracts you. In fact, it enhances the environment and vibe you get from racing on this track. It's got the chaos and mayhem people love Mario Kart for, and an incredible course layout which hits you with new unique ideas as you whiz by them, never to see them again. I think this might be the best Mario Kart track Nintendo's ever made. There, I said it. You could take the best part of every other track in this video, and the vast majority of those best parts are probably somewhat similar to parts in Big Blue. It's just fun all the time. So there you have it. We've just ranked every single track, but we are not done. So now it's time to take some averages and rank a bunch more things. We're going to be ranking every wave in the Booster Course Pass and a couple of more things at the end, but first let's take a look at the cups. This honestly shocked me because obviously I'm able to see what my favorite cup is, and it's not the cup I would have thought. But anyway, here we go. I just averaged the ranking of each 4 tracks in every cup, and then that's the score of the cup. So at an average position of 68.75, we have the Golden Dash Cup, aka the first cup in the Booster Course Pass. This makes complete sense. I feel like the Booster Course Pass got a lot better as it goes on. I mean, we'll see when I rank the waves, but it definitely did not start off well. So yeah, Golden Dash Cup is the worst cup in this game. And then we had the Cherry Cup, the Lucky Cat Cup, the Shell Cup, the Special Cup, the Turnip Cup, the Moon and Rock Cup actually tied with an average finishing position of 62.25, the Boomerang Cup, the Leaf Cup, the Lightning Cup, the Mushroom Cup, the Triforce Cup, the Feather Cup, the Spiny Cup, the Crossing Cup, the Flower Cup, the Acorn Cup, the Fruit Cup, the Propeller Cup, and then the Banana and Egg Cup also tied with an average finishing position of 32.75. Holy crap, there are a lot of cups in this game. But the final 2 are the Star Cup with an average finishing position of 23, and then all the way in, blowing everything else out of the water with a final finishing position of 9.75, meaning this cup's 4 tracks average being in the top 10. That would be the Bell Cup. Before looking at this, I assumed the Star Cup would be my favorite. That's just kind of always been my thought process. I mean, Mount Wario, Sunshine Airport, Dolphin Shoals, and Electrodrome. That's a banger cup right there. But I guess I never realized how insane the Bell Cup is. Neo Bowser City and Super Bell Subway are both bangers. And then Ribbon Road and Big Blue are 2 of my favorite courses in the entire game, with Big Blue getting the #1 spot. So like, the Bell Cup is insane. Now let's take a look at ranking the Booster Course Pass waves. The worst wave in the Booster Course Pass is Wave 1. Then actually Wave 5, which kind of surprised me because again, I think it got better as time went on, but looking back at Wave 5, it did have its fair share of stinkers, with 3 pretty mid-city tracks. Next we have Wave 4, then actually Wave 2 as the second best in the entire game, which I think somewhat makes sense, just based on the fact that like Mushroom Gorge, Snowland, Sydney Sprint, Mario Circuit 3, those are all bangers. Finally, no surprise here, the best wave is Wave 6. Wii Rainbow Road being at number 3 was the outlier here, but even besides that, like DK Mountain, Piranha Plant Cove, Daisy Circuit, Bowser's Castle 3, those were all pretty highly ranked. This was a banger wave through and through. Moving away from the Booster Course Pass, let's rank the main game now. When Mario Kart 8 launched, it had 4 Retro and 4 Nitro Cups. The Retro Cups come in at an average finishing position of 53.8125. The Nitro Cups then come in at 43.5625. And by far, the best cups in this game, with a better average finishing position than any wave of the Booster Course Pass, or the tracks from when Mario Kart 8 originally launched, are the DLC tracks for Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. These 4 cups are absolutely insane. This does not surprise me at all. I remember when this DLC was coming out back on the Wii U, and I was consistently in awe of how Nintendo was taking a Mario Kart game with some already damn good tracks, and just consistently proving, oh yeah, no, we can do better. The 4 DLC cups in this game have an average finishing position of 32.8125, which is genuinely insane considering there's 16 tracks here, and averaging them all together is still somehow in like the top third of tracks in this game. Finally, the last thing we can do is average up the entire Booster Course Pass and average the entire base game together. The Booster Course Pass came in as slightly worse. I don't think that's a real big shocker. At about 53.6 average finishing position, with the base game coming in at around 43.4. So there's about 10 positions of variance here, which I genuinely think makes a ton of sense. I feel like they're both really good. The Booster Course Pass has some bangers, the base game has some bangers, but averaging it all together, this result doesn't shock me at all. I mean, the base game doesn't have any city courses, so that probably makes it up right there. Anyway, we have finally reached the end of this insane ranking. I wanted to thank you guys just for the support on the channel this past year. It's no secret, Nintendo hasn't really been doing anything. And when you make an entire YouTube channel dedicated to covering and making content about one company, and then that one company doesn't really do a ton, it can be pretty discouraging. So I just wanted to thank anyone who's been watching the content this year, dropping a comment, leaving a like. You guys are why we do this. I love talking to y'all in the comments, so let me know actually down below where you vehemently disagree with my ranking, and as always, I'll try to respond to as many as I can. With that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a safe and happy holidays. Hit the subscribe button if you did enjoy, and click the button on screen right now if you want even more Mario Kart coverage, because I'm talking about all 5 Rainbow Roads. We did an in-depth analysis, way more in-depth than I talked about them here, so check it out.